him. Welcome to our library studio here as part of the YAHOWAH blog. I'm your host, Craig Winn. This is a continuation of our Chakmah Choter series. For those who are unaware, the Choter is the most interesting person in prophecy. And this is because there are so many almost incredible statements that are made regarding him. He is featured in the 14th Mashal, that is a proverb. It was written by King Daud, who is known as David, our Messiah, the very Son of God. And he went out of his way using Chakmah 8 different times to say that this individual and also his wife would be exceptionally intelligent. And Daud is insistent that people recognize the arrival of the Choter because he does something marvelous as it relates to our Messiah. And that is, he restores his position in God's plan and family, that of our Savior. You see, this Choter was the first to assess that the entire story of Jesus is nothing but a myth. Jesus never existed. He was conceived by Paul in 52 CE by robbing 2 individuals, one real, one not. His title as Messiah was taken from Daud, the actual Messiah according to God. His title, Son of God, was also robbed from Daud, who Yahweh says on 3 occasions that Daud is his beloved son. The title of king was also pilfered from Daud, who was and will be the king of Israel and the world. The title of Savior was also stolen from Daud, who Yahweh says is our Yasha, the one who saved us by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Makodim in 33 CE. The notion of being crucified by the Romans on Passover, yes, again, part of the identity theft that was used to create the myth of Jesus, because David, described his own crucifixion in fulfilling Passover 1,000 years before he endured it. 700 years before Rome even existed. And almost as many years before crucifixion using nails was invented. And yet he describes that form of death biologically, explaining precisely how it kills. One of the most amazing of all prophecies. It's in the 22nd Mizmor or Psalm, written in first person by Daud. All of that was stolen to create this myth. The other character that was pilfered is Dionysus. When Paul claimed that he was confronted by a spirit who blinded him, caused him to be lame, and to fall to the ground on the road to Damascus, he put the words of Dionysus in his spirit's mouth. It is difficult to kick against the goat. It is the single most famous line attributed to Dionysus. The very notion of a dying and resurrected God, a man being seen as God, was also pilfered from Dionysus. And so being the first to recognize that Jesus never existed, that he is nothing but a crude counterfeit of David with a little slathering of the pagan Dionysus, I opened people's minds to recognizing an even more profound truth. That David was and will be our king. That he is the only one that Yahweh called my Messiah, anointing him 3 times for his 3 lives. That he is the one person that Yahweh said, he is my son, I am his father. Additionally, he called Dod his firstborn. Dod is the chosen one, according to God. He is the one who is most set apart, again, according to God. He is the one who has been here twice before and will return, according to God, not only as brilliant as the sun in God's presence, but as Elyon, as if he were God himself. All of this God claims on behalf of Dod. He goes so far in speaking of Dod in the 89th Psalm that he says that those who denounce or deny any of the claims that Yahweh has made on behalf of his beloved Son, our Messiah, the King, Dod David, are calling God a liar. Christianity exists to call God a liar. So does Judaism. So does Islam, but that's another story. Now, determining this, which is the greatest discovery in human history, is part of the Chakmah of the Choter. And the Choter is then represented in one of the most profoundly important and unique prophecies in the whole of Yahweh's prophetic portrayal. It is in Yahowah, the most prolific of the prophets, in his 11th chapter. You can read it in the Dead Sea Scrolls, called the Great Isaiah Scroll. It's the only scroll found in its entirety. And in the 11th chapter of Yahowah, Isaiah, it says that the Choter is the one man in all of human history that is the beneficiary of the 7 spirits of Yahweh, including the very Ruach of Yahweh. And that he is bequeathed indeed with the spirit of Chakmah, of supreme intelligence, of being the first to put the pieces together to understand. He has the spirit of Etzah, being the one who is able to frame the entire story from beginning to end, and to know exactly how God's play plays out from creation to our return to the garden. He is, according to God, bequeathed with the spirit of Gabora, which is extreme courage and boldness, a fighter, not a pacifist, a man who will not surrender under any circumstances, a man that takes after Dod. He is the spirit of knowledge, of extreme knowledge, because you must have all of the pieces of the puzzle available to you and know where they are, what they say, before you can even apply your intelligence or your sense of understanding to them, before you can frame the issue. He also has the spirit of great respect and reverence for Yahweh and his name, more so than anyone who has come before, which is why he is the one who reintroduced Yahweh's name to the world. It says that this man will be a parah, which is a very productive bull. He is the parah of Numbers 19. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's entitled the Adamah Parah, which is thought to be the red heifer. might be a little chubby, but I'm not a cow. No, indeed, the Adam of Parah, this Choter, is in fact the man from Edom. He is the one that Isaiah speaks of in the 63rd chapter that saves many. Yeshayah calls him the final Zeroah. He is referred to not only in Yeshayah, Isaiah, but initially by David's beloved son, Solomon, during the actual Sermon on the Mount, where he presented everything you need to know, Israel, and indeed the world, about this man and the opportunity he is providing. He was introduced then as the Nakri, the observant foreigner. And God says specifically that this man is a Zeroah. He is one cultivating the seeds of the final harvest, Shabu and Teruah. That he is the very right hand of David, Solomon's father, serving him as the Bashar herald. It says that his voice will come to you out of the sky, as if by satellite. And that you need to listen to what he has to say, no matter when and where you live, and then respond by doing as he asks. And that this is for all Goyim and Israelites without exception. Now, you'd think with someone with those prophetic credentials, when they announce that they're the first person in human history not only to understand these prophecies and to have properly translated them from the oldest extant manuscripts, including the Dead Sea Scrolls, but that no one else in all of human history has qualified. And yet he does, having written the 35 books that you see surrounding me, all free at YAHOWAH.com. And now as the host of the YAHOWAH blog with well over 500 hours of audio programming, all live streaming at Yahweh's request on behalf of his people. No one in all of human history has determined the things that we have, recognizing that I have, through these translations and the insights derived from them, shared some 5,000 profoundly important revelations that were never previously understood. That is a wealth of knowledge, is it not? And so I come to you today, and I'm going to announce something that we will delve into in greater detail in our program for tomorrow night. But for those who are devoted to the covenant and the work we have to do, what you're going to learn is, as a result of the other program that we are also broadcasting from this room, it is the story that ended up announcing the identity of the Antichrist, because it was revealed very early on in the process. That's something else that people have searched for a long time. I have not only come to determine who he is and have proven who he is and what he will do to earn that distinction. I said that the reason I went into that material, and it was in Daniel, is that after really coming to understand the book of Numbers and all of the insights we could glean from it in the Torah, and then what Yeshayah had to say about the role I have been asked to play, I felt a very strong yearning to go back to Daniel with all that we had learned and to see if, for the first time, the very complicated and veiled words of that Gordian puzzle could be understood. And what I was searching for is to make certain that we had the details properly assessed for the timeline of these next 8 years. And in previous programs now, I have shared the exact day that the Torahless one, whom I'm calling the Antichrist just to get your attention, will arrive in Jerusalem to establish his credentials as supreme ruler of certainly that part of the world and maybe even more. 29 January 2030. I have explained to you that 45 days later, on the Ides of March, 15th of March of 2030, that this man, who was none other than Donald J. Trump, is going to announce that he's God. 33 days thereafter, the two witnesses will arrive. They are Yada and Eliah. They will appear on Pesach, Passover, also in 2030, which is the 18th of April. So I've given you those 3 dates, have I not? Explained them, detailed them from the very complex translations in Daniel. As a matter of fact, Daniel was specifically revealed to be almost impossible to ascertain the meaning of these prophecies. It was deliberately sealed. Daniel was told that no one would understand what was being conveyed until the restoring witness, at the very last moment that is available for people to appreciate these events, will finally be able to discern what is being said. And that is why I have been diligently working on it, why we've gone down to one YAHOWAH vlog a day, and that I'm spending almost all of my time now translating what is an exceptionally difficult text, and deliberately so. I spent all day today on 2 verses, but oh my, the treasure they delivered. This is extremely challenging work, right? I can tell you that today I have a headache that is bigger than that ocean that you've been seeing through our roving cam. I think it's right now on the Wookmeister with Asher down there having a ball on their new a toy that is a lion, larger than Wookiee, of course, but Wookiee views himself as the Lion of Judah. And so as you even see that beautiful ocean that is off of my left shoulder, yeah, that's the size of the headache. I'm not complaining. It's a marvelous adventure. It just, it takes all of the Chakmah that I can muster to deduce the proper understanding of these words that were revealed some 2,600 years ago. And in so doing, I have ascertained the last date that remained, well, not completely resolved, because I have shared, based upon what is revealed elsewhere, that Dowd foretold that he would fulfill Pesach Matzon Bekurim on time, on schedule, saying so 600 years in advance in 33 CE. Of course, makes 2033 the year 6,000 Yah, because we're told that Dowd would be the greater luminary in year 4,000 Yah in the creation account. Even that his lesser luminary, the one reflecting his brilliance, would serve as the final sacrifice, fulfilling these Moed Mikre, and he would be the one to share what Dowd had accomplished in year 4,000 Yah. That being year 4,000 Yah, then 2033 is year 6,000 Yah, and we have told you exactly when Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah will be played out in those years, and what will happen on each of those days, which left only one day as the final riddle to be solved. And that means that the Shabuah harvest that precedes the time of Yisrael's trouble has to either be 7 years and 5 months prior to the final resolution on Towrah, to this horrible time, or it is essentially 6 years and 3 months prior. One of those two. And so it's either we have very little time left and we are down to our last 10 months, or we have nearly 2 years left and have a greater opportunity to finish this job as Yahweh intends, and to deliver a Shabuah harvest that is in keeping with what our God deserves, what our Messiah deserves. Now, I'm not going to answer that question for you now, but I have determined the answer precisely. And that is the introduction, if you will, to tomorrow evening's program. I'm going to share that with you. As for now, we are canvassing something that was essential for me to figure out. And a lot of times I pursue things that are essential for me to know so that I can properly explain the role that God has asked me to play beyond being the Adam of Parah, this one who is the productive bull fulfilling Numbers 19, to resolve the religious issues and guilt of the adulterous woman of Numbers 5 so that she can be betrothed to the returning king Dod on Kippurim. And in the midst of doing that, of course, we were directed to Numbers 11 and 12 because of a family issue or rebellion, because it's essential that everyone speaking for Yahweh, as prophet or witness, Choter or Zeroah, endure what God has suffered, recognizing that in Numbers 11 we read that God gave up on Israel. It's just impossible. So did Moshe. And while we were reading that story, one of the things that was brought to our attention is that when Moshe gave up and said, I can't do this anymore, I want you to kill me, because this job is impossible. These people are impossible. They're irascible. They're cantankerous. They're embittered. I can't do this job. Kill me. Don't put me through this agony. God didn't disagree with him. He didn't say, no, Moshe, come on, you're overreacting. They're not that bad. You know, there's redeeming aspects of them. Come on, let's get up. Let's get going. We got stuff to do. He didn't say that at all. God agreed with him. Heck, he had torched the entire surrounding of the encampment. He was so disgusted by them. So, quite simply, God agreed with Moshe. And they had already told, and we're going to read again in Devarim 18, which is where we are, that they already told God to shut up and go away. They never wanted to see him or hear from him again. So God was on the same page as Moshe. I'm out of here. And he would later even announce that he was divorcing himself from his people, that they were no longer his children, and that he was going to sit out this next episode all the way to the end, all the way until such time as his final witness could convince Yisrael to change, to stop erasing God's name, to stop denying the identity of the Messiah, Savior, and Son of God. And so in that process where Moshe was so distraught, he asked God to kill him. God presented a couple of guys. He said, don't worry about Moshe. I got a couple of guys. We're going to take care of it. You just get these malcontents to the promised land, and I got a couple of guys that'll take it from there. They are the other two Zeroah. They are extraordinary individuals in God's story. And by an extraordinary individual, they're flawed. Yeah, everybody in God's story is flawed. They're real people. God speaks through and uses real people to speak to real people. If you don't like that, well, you're not going to like God very much. That's exactly why he created us, created the covenant, conceived life, authored the Torah guidance, is because, well, he likes us. He wants to have a relationship with us. He knows who we are. He's not trying to condemn us. He's trying to help us. He wants to lift us up. He wants to make us more than we are, perfect us, empower us, enrich us, and emancipate us. And so he picks flawed individuals like Moshe, like Dod, like Yada. And in this process, God told Moshe, actually showed Moshe, that he's got a couple of guys. Their names were Eldod and Midod. Right there in Numbers 11. Eldod and Midod. Eldod is the Almighty's beloved. Who is the one that Yahweh chose? Who is the one that Yahweh says, I love him more than anyone else? Who is the one that Yahweh named Dod beloved? Oh, Dod beloved, isn't it? So Eldod is Dod, the very man that we're going to identify here in the 18th chapter of Deuteronomy. But who's that other fellow? Midod. Well, you're adding 2 letters to Dod's name, are you not? A mem and a yod. And the mem was drawn as waves on the sea. It says that this man will be from the sea. Well, I point to camera left. There is the Caribbean Sea. I'm in the midst of it. But sea means he's going to be a Gentile. That Midod will be a Gentile, and that waters will be associated with him, both cleansing waters and life-giving waters, because that is the essence of what happens pursuant to the Adamah Parah and the fulfillment of that prophecy on Towrah. Copious amounts of water are released from the Temple Mount beneath the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah to cleanse God's people and to provide them with new life. And the other letter in that name is a yod. And the yod is a hand, arm, reaching down and out with an open hand. It is to reach out and lift you up. It also means that Midod serves as Dod's right hand. And so there is Midod and there is Eldod, and as we hear what Yahweh says about them, he says that they were acting as prophets. He used the verb for prophets, naba, as opposed to nabi, which is the noun, the title. They were engaged in prophecy. And so with Midod engaged in prophecy and Eldod, and I've always known that Dod was a prophet. He is one of the most prolific of all the prophets, I think maybe second only to Yeshayah in the wealth of prophecy that he has offered us. And that Midod is his herald, Yada. But both are acting in the roles of prophets. And that was not comfortable for me. Now, you might think that, oh, wow, you've got all these accolades, all of these titles, and they just keep on coming. I mean, every day that I do a new translation, you're finding God's referencing this role in yet another place and another way, all with descriptive titles. And you might say, well, that's about as good as they come prophet. That's, no, it's not. No, it's not. Not by a million miles, it's not. Why? Well, the beloved titles are Son of God. Fortunately, Yahweh does refer to his Nakar as his son. So that title comes with the job. You would think so, because that's what God's trying to do in the covenant family. Now, next to Son of God, chosen one, that's Dod's. Messiah, anointed Messiah, that's Dod's. Zeroah happens to be one of the best. It's shared with 3 men, Moshe, Dod, and Yada. Shepherd is another wonderful title. King is Dod's title. But prophet is not one that you want. And I was really happy. We're calling this series Chakmah Choter. Choter is a secondary stem off or a stem off the main branch. The main branch is Dode. And so this is the job requires one being a stem off the main branch of Dode. Pretty cool. Like that. It's a sucker. Now, a lot of people think, well, sucker is a pejorative. No, a sucker is what gives, particularly an olive tree, the fallen stump or the old rootstock, new life, making it productive again. Sucker is a really good thing pursuant to old olive trees. That's a really good term. Nakri is kind of a fun term because after searching for a Israelite that could actually do this job and awaken God's people, getting them to shub, change, accept Yahweh's name again, and embrace his beloved son and savior, our savior Dode, he said, I couldn't find one. So I chose an observant foreigner. Nakri and Nakar mean observant foreigner. Pretty cool title considering the description that is offered. But Nabi? No. Why? What would you say? Well, there were about 20 Nabi that played a profound role in offering prophecy. They have books that are named after them. Yashayah, of course, is a great one. Dode was a prophet in this regard. Zechariah, Malachi, Yirmiyah, Zechariah. They're all great prophets. Hosha, Chabauk. These are wonderful prophets. And they all, Yoel, they all wrote under their own name and Yahweh's name, of course, what they knew of the past, present, and future. And we have the benefit of learning from them. Can you name a story of one of those prophets who was well received by Israel? Take Moshe. He was so badly treated by Israel that he quit, that he told God, I can't do this job. No one can do this job. He was so bad, he asked God to kill him. So no, you didn't treat Moshe very well. You didn't treat Dode very well. He had a terrible uprising against him, tried to overthrow him. You had the king that the people wanted try to hunt him down and kill him. So no, you didn't treat Dode very well, did you? Yashayah tried to kill. There's not a single prophet that you treated well. In fact, you don't treat God well. You told him to go away and shut up. You never wanted to see or hear from him again. So being a Nabi is not exactly something that one would aspire to and say, oh, I want to be treated like crap by Israel. That sounds like a really fun thing to do. Well, they're off committing suicide, and I'm trying to tell them don't do that, and I'm risking my life and will actually give my life to save them. What's better than being spit in the face and attacked by those you're trying to save? No, one does not seek the title Nabi. And I was of the perception that a prophet must be right on everything they say. Errant interpretation of the very passage that we're pursuing here in Devarim 18. Doesn't say that at all. And you know why it can't be true? I should have thought it through. Everything that Moshe said wasn't true. You can't attack God for putting you in an impossible position and then quit and express your frustration and anger in quitting and have everything you say be right. Every time that the children of Israel confronted Moshe and grumbled, never once did he turn to them, look them in the eye, and say, shut up. You're miserable. Stop it. Start appreciating what God has given you. Do you understand the situation you're in? Do you understand the opportunity you have been given? Shut up, back away, and start listening rather than mocking me and him. Never once. Dode complained a lot about the nature of the way he was being treated, but when it really came down to it and he was on the run, he ran. Dowd said a lot of things and did a lot of things that were invalid. Both are profoundly important prophets. Shamuel and Yeshayah are both exceedingly important prophets, and both of them had a moment where it's been disclosed that they flat out got it wrong. Well, there's multiple for Shamuel. He tried to convince God that he had the wrong guy to be the Messiah. And then when the people chose Saul, over him as a judge, he went to God and said, I have failed you. And God had to correct him and say, no, you haven't. They rejected me, not you. And Dowd was given any number of tests by God, opportunities to do the right thing, and he did the wrong thing. And God pointed it out to us. So therefore, you've got three of the most important people along the way, and we have evidence that even though they were profoundly important prophets, they didn't get everything right. To work with God, you're learning on the job. It would be absurd for God to use humans in any other way. If God just said, all right, you're my guy, I'm giving you a data dump. Every time you open your mouth, you're going to be flapping your lips for me. I'm going to speak through you. You're just nothing but an object. Just go along with the program. Get some sleep, wake up, and either write or talk to my people. And you don't have to think about it because I'm just giving you a total data dump. You're essentially a microphone. What's the purpose in that? What's the fun in that? What's the growth in that? Where's there a relationship there? How is that symbolic of how we're going to spend our eternity, where we explore and learn together and do things together? How is that symbolic of how a family works? Don't you, with your children, start by teaching your children? And don't your children learn? And don't they grow and over time have more interesting conversations and more accurate perceptions as you have taught them and guided them? That's the same way that YAHOWAH works. Dowd didn't start as the powerful and intellectual orator of the Mizmor and Mashal. Moshe did not begin as the great liberator. He began by saying, well, I don't think very clearly. I won't do this. So no. You grow. Moshe would even grow past this moment of his meltdown. We all do. That's what YAHOWAH wants. He wants to show that it is possible for we humans to learn about him, to respond to him, to listen to him, to observe what he has to say, and to grow. And so in that process, we are going to make mistakes that we have the opportunity to correct. And what I learned is that the definition of a prophet is not inerrancy. It has far more to do with other characteristics, one of which is the fact that they speak in YAHOWAH's name, which means the idiots that wrote the Christian New Testament were not prophets. They didn't speak for God. They didn't write in YAHOWAH's name. The Talmud doesn't have a single prophet. They didn't write in YAHOWAH's name. Muhammad could not have been a prophet. He did not speak in YAHOWAH's name. You don't speak in YAHOWAH's name, you are not a prophet. The single most important thing, though, in terms of a prophet is what God said. If you are a prophet, you know it. Why do you know it? Because he says so. God told us that Moshe was a prophet. He told us that he chose Dowd, that he inspired him. He told us that Dowd is the one that is returning. He told us all about Dowd so that we could trust what Dowd has to say in his songs and in his mashal. If you've been reading these books behind me that surround me, if you've been listening to this program over the last 7 or 8 months that we have been doing it at YAHOWAH's request, you know that there are at least 1,000 specific declarations from God pursuant to this particular mission at this time. If God has chosen you to speak for him, you know it, and you can prove it, which is precisely what he has shared with me and that I have conveyed to you, and that you're given the opportunity to learn and to grow. It was something really brilliant on behalf of God's part in this particular case with his final witness, and that he is actually able to present his Nakri, his observant foreigner, in such a way that God can say everything he learned because I had shared it through the prophets long ago, which means you could have discovered the same truth if you had been open-minded and had invested the time that he did. No. In my case, I've invested over 100,000 hours, every waking hour for 24 years to this. And over that time, I've figured it out. But so could anyone who is open-minded, systematic, diligent, intelligent, willing to make the necessary connections after learning and listening and observing. And that's what God wanted to convey. He wanted to say, it was always there for you to know, and you simply didn't bother. You rode over it. You distracted people away from it. You let people corrupt it. You just didn't focus on what I gave you. And so that was the brilliance of it. We have grown together. We have learned together. We have enjoyed a marvelous relationship. He is my teacher. I am his student. And now I am your teacher, and you are my students. That is the way this works. Now, many, having listened to what I said in the last program on Chakmah, Choter, where God delineated the numerous things that he despised, that he called not only an abomination, but crappy. He described being religious as being covered in dung. And so there are those who are going to chafe at this realization and say that, how can God be this intolerant? And societal condition makes it difficult for the believers in these systems to accept that Yahweh is repulsed, absolutely disgusted by the religious and political. Goddamn religion is the name of a series of books that I wrote on exposing and condemning the Quran, Allah, and Muhammad. God damn religion. God hates religion. He damns the religious. The very institutions that claim that they're responsible for introducing you to God and providing your salvation are the ones that damn you, that lead you away from God. God hates religion with a passion. He hates the militant and the conspiratorial too. Yes, God hates. Why? Because hate is a virtue. If you don't hate that which is harmful to those you love, you can't love them. You must hate those who mislead and rob billions of souls. You must hate rape and the rapist, pedophilia and the pedophile, arson and the arsonist, murder and the mass murderer, terror and the terrorist, incest and the incestuous. These are all things that one must despise to show any degree of compassion for their victims. God hates religion. It's the deadliest crime ever perpetrated on humanity. And yet, God does not preclude people from pursuing religious faith or of believing it, because he is the proponent of free will. And you might say, well, that means that 99.99% of people have no opportunity to enter heaven. It's close, but not exact. It means that in their present state, 99% of people are political and religious. Only about half of those are overtly political and religious to the point that no amount of evidence and reason is ever going to sway them. The MAGAs and the Marxists, as well as the Christians and the Muslims that are devout to their religion, nothing you can say to them, including that Jesus is a complete fraud, and I prove it, and that the real Son of God and Messiah is David, and God proves it, is going to even mean anything to them. They're just going to get mad and go away. So that half of the world's population, there is absolutely nothing you can do. There's another half of the world's population that is comprised of people that are just a little bit religious, that are willing to question their religion. If you get them at the right time and you get their attention, you can walk them away from religion. There are individuals who are fed up with politics. You know, the MAGAs that are finally realizing, oh, well, maybe we made a real mistake. This guy is a real creep that we have elected. We should be ashamed, and I am ashamed, and now I'm looking for answers. That kind of person is reachable, but not the person that doubles down and said, this is my guy, and if you don't agree, then you're an idiot. You know, the Marxists that are out there pimping for Muslims, calling for genocide against Jews, they're not reachable. They've lost the affinity for evidence and reason. So there's about 50% of people that have a remote potential to reach, but you know, maybe half of them are preoccupied with their lives. A huge percentage don't have the acumen. And I'm sorry, the only way to reach God is to think your way to them. You don't have to be brilliant. You have to be brilliant, I think, to put the pieces together, but to share the pieces. And to share the pieces, it doesn't hurt to be brilliant as well. Chakmah and Dod's terms and Yahowah's terms. But in terms of understanding it, focus, a sound mind, the willingness to engage in the pursuit of evidence and reason can get you there. But most people aren't willing to invest the time. These books took me 24 years to write. If you were to devote 3 hours a night to them between now, starting now, it would take you a full year to read through them. And you need that knowledge. It's a full year of your time, 3 hours a day over that period of time. Are you willing to invest that time for your soul, for the soul of those you love? Most would say no. And so that diminishes a number of people that can potentially reach Yahweh and find him, come to know him. So there are lots of different things that cut the potential of those who will respond favorably to what we're sharing down, such that it's going to be, as we shared in our last program, and God wrote in stone, etched in stone actually, that the number of people who are going to receive the benefits of his covenant and his mercy, that he's going to reciprocate in love, are thousands. He said thousands. Do you know what thousands are amongst the 8 billion souls that are alive today? Well, thousands among billions is 1 in a million, which means he's delineating that there'll be 8,000. Now, it could be more than that, because that means that there's 8 billion alive today, but over this longer period of time that this information was given, that opens it up. So it may be 10, 12 billion, or 10 to 12,000 overall. And for those who are already having a conniption fit, says, well, that's just not fair to the person living in, Guyana or the Congo that never had access to this information. God's not being fair. What do you mean he's not being fair? You think that they aren't appreciative of the fact that they were given life? Who gave them that life? Who conceived them to be intelligent, to have hands that and opposable fingers and thumbs, eyes to see, ears to hear, mouths to communicate, to be an upright creature? Who gave them life, this opportunity? He's not taking away their life. He's giving them their life. He conceived them with free will. He conceived them as humans with a nasalma, which is a conscience that enables you to deduce right and wrong. And today, by the way, there are 8 billion smartphones out there, and every one of those smartphones can access these blogs, which are specifically designed for them, as also YAHOWAH.com, which is free, which is where all of these books reside, which is also done in such a way that they read beautifully on a smartphone. But God's not cheating those people out of anything. In fact, he's giving them something. He gave them life. He gave them a planet to thrive on and every opportunity in the world. And he is not taking anything from them. At the end, God's not saying, if you don't know me and love me and obey me and all that kind of stuff, you're going to hell and I'm going to torture you forever. He's not saying that at all. He's saying, I gave you life. Live your life. Make your choices. Whatever you decide. Okay. In the end, there will be 3 destinations for human souls. The overwhelming preponderance, including that poor guy out there in Guyana or the Congo that you're so worried about, at the end of his life, his soul simply dissipates into nothingness. No penalty, no reward. He was given this gift of life and a conscience and free will by God and this beautiful planet to live on, and he made the most of it. He did what he wanted to do, or she did what she wanted to do. At the end of life, it's just the end of life. Nothing taken away, something given. Now, to the religious, overtly religious and overtly political that have been part of harming God's people and deliberately leading people away from God, either through politics or from religion. And understand, most politics pursued the caste system where almost all people were deprived of liberty and where almost all people were lied to because of this integration between religion and politics. So the leaders of those systems were rotten to the core and they were exceedingly abusive. But the fact remains that those who have deliberately led people away from God, the people who are now promoting MAGA, knowing that Trump is an overt liar and that he is demonic in his attitude towards people and that he is a sexual pervert, and you're still promoting him, then you deserve a different fate than having your soul simply dissipate to nothing. If you're promoting your Christianity or your Islam or your Marxism, and it is harmful to God's people, well, you've earned another fate, and that's a trip into Sheol. Sheol is an eternal prison where your soul just simply continues to exist in a single dimension, time. No tortures, no punishment. It's simply an eternal incarceration away from the rest of us. And those who accept the 5 conditions of the covenant, who attend the Moed Mikre as they were intended, understand Yahowah's name, accept it, appreciate his beloved son and what he accomplished for us in fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, those individuals spend all eternity with Yahowah. They inherit the entire universe. There is a tremendous reward. You get your full life and then some. It's a perfect plan. There's nothing to complain about. But if you look at God's situation and you go back all the way to Eden, and God didn't say that Adam was the first man. He simply said that Adam was the first man created in his image with a nasalma, with a conscience. All animals have souls according to God, which is the ability to observe and respond to a changing environment. But a nasalma, a conscience, is something that we humans were given, although 99% don't know it or don't use it, that enables us to be just, to be fair, to be discriminating, to discern between right and wrong, good and bad. And so Adam was the first man given one of these. He was surrounded by all manner of humans outside the walled garden. And God created a protective enclave for he and this one man to relate. And they had a great time. They walked through the garden together. They ate together. They chatted together. They communicated and played with the animals together. Had a great time. But God realized that while there was only this one man, that because he created us as a social creature, that we shrivel up and die, isolated from others. We need love. We need to have that love reciprocated. We thrive on relationships. Many of these programs, you see my lovely wife over there in the next to the Wookiee throne, and you can just see the twinkle in my eye when she's here. I'm better around her. She's better around me. Our life is richer together, and it should be obvious because it's true. And so God said, I think I need to give Adam, even though I'm happy with my relationship with Adam, but I need to give Adam a companion like him, someone who together they are more than they would be independently, so that Adam really has a choice. He can spend time with Chakmah, which was her name. It means to state your case. Doesn't mean life giver. It means to state your case. He can spend time with me, and they did a lot of time together. All three of us can spend time together, but at least Adam doesn't go crazy if he chooses not God, which, that's not much of a choice, right? It didn't work out very well. God knew it wouldn't work out very well, but it was still part of the plan, because by it not working out well and us understanding what actually transpired in that garden, I've done a whole series of shows called In the Garden. It's really one of the most marvelously insightful series we've done so far, that God laid out what it is that he is offering us, because he's trying to bring us back to the garden. But if you look at the garden, God was happy with one. He was happy with two. You look at the situation with the ark and with Noah and his sons. He was happy with Noah and the 7 additions between wives and sons, 8 people. I was delighted with that. Reaffirmed the covenant with that, gave him a rainbow because of that, saved all the animals together with him. And that was a regional flood, by the way. He describes exactly how it began with an upwelling of deep seawater and the region that it occurred in, and explains the exact reason that it had to occur, which was that he had to wipe out the humans that were now inbreeding and received an asalma from the first man and woman in the garden, and made them treacherous like Hamas. In fact, he uses the term Hamas to describe them. And then you go down the road, and you find that Yahowah was delighted with Adam and Sarah. But he wanted Adam and Sarah to experience what he wanted to achieve, which was to have a family, and they went and screwed it up. They said, "Oh, well, we'll have a sex slave produce you a son. That'd be Ishmael through Hagar." And they said, "Okay, that'll be our inheritance and our son." And God said, "Are you out of your minds?" No. By the way, the very fact that God said no to that, and clearly said no to it, means that Paul lied when he wrote his first letter to the Galatians, where he claimed otherwise. It makes Paul an absolute, unequivocal liar. The very foundation of his new covenant is a lie. Anyway, God says, no, we're not going to do that. He says, it's going to be Sarah over here that's going to have your kid. Pay attention to your wife. Do as she asks, and, make a kid. And by the way, when you make a kid, you're going to call that kid Laughter, Yishak, because what the heck? It is pretty funny what we're going to do together, and we're going to have a good time. And so they became a threesome, and God was delighted with the 3 of them. Delighted. And, Yishak went off. He had a couple of boys. There was a good one and a bad one. And rather than saying, got to have more, we're going to make it, even though Esau is kind of a curmudgeon here. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to exclude him because the family's too small. I want a crowd, man. I want an empire. I'm not looking for a small family. No, we need No, he said no. It says get rid of Esau. No. Esau comes back into the picture through the man from Edom, and we have the family reconciled again. But it takes some time to get to that point. So God is saying, no, it's just fine. We'll do this with Jacob. And Jacob then has 12 sons, and God's delighted with the 12 sons, even though the 12 sons were not that delightful. They weren't nice at all. They were really mean to each other and to others. But the 12, that was just fine with God. And the 12 then became many, with hundreds of thousands. But when God, just to give you an idea, the fact that God's not looking for a crowd. I think God might even be a little bit of an introvert, to tell you the truth. But to show you that God's not looking for a crowd. The children of Israel get all huffy and religious and cantankerous. And by the time that you pass through Numbers 11 and 12 in the Great Revolt, where Moshe gives up, and then the horrid scene where Miriam attacks Moshe's wife and then says that she and Aaron also speak for God, and God says, hell no, you don't. No. And it's a rebuke really of the Talmud and of course the Christian New Testament, saying those who speak for me, they know it because I declare it. And that leads right to the episode of the spies, where the Israelites were asked to send a member of every tribe into the promised land and to just see indeed how beautiful it was. And they came back, and all but two of them were shaking in their sandals. Oh, they're big giants. We're terrible in there. God's going to send us in there. We're all going to get killed. We're not going. We want to go back to Egypt. And God said, screw you. Hey, really, screw you. I don't need you. And for that, here's what we're going to do. All of you are going to die. That first generation I took out of Mitzrayim, you're all going to pass away. There's only going to be two of you who get to go into the promised land. Two. Caleb, which is all heart in Hebrew, which means super judgmental in Hebrew. Actually, it's also the Hebrew word for dog. And Yahusha, it should be the most correct way to say it. Yahusha ben Nun, he was Moshe's successor. His name means Yahweh saves. The two of them, that was it. So do you think God is looking for a big crowd? I think not. And that's why he says, when he was asked to etch this statement in stone about how many would receive his enduring love and support his mercy, he said there would be thousands. Thousands amongst billions is 1 in a million. That's where we stand. So if you're looking for a God that loves everybody and wants everybody included into heaven, and that your dearly departed are all in heaven looking down on you, that's a religious fantasy, having nothing to do with Yahweh. So for those who go through life this way, well, life will be short and it will end poorly. There will be nothing more. Their bodies will decay, their souls will fade away. There's no penalty, but simply a consequence of squandering a vastly superior alternative. Should, however, an individual engage in something that Yahweh views contrary to his people, like perpetrating 10/7 Alaska flood, well, there's a very severe penalty for that. For the Hadrians and the Pauls of the world, for the Muhammads of the world, there is a really severe penalty for that. For the Allahs, there will be hell to pay. They will be judged. They will be condemned. They will spend an eternity in Sheol. Akiba, for example, Maimonides, an eternity in hell. The founder of Hasidic Judaism, the Lord of the good name, Baal Shem Tov, hell awaits every rabbi today in Israel. That's your destination. Might as well make your reservation. If you don't, I will. When it comes to eternal life in heaven, God's rules apply. There's no way around them. There will be no exceptions, for without the conditions of the covenant, God's home would become to mirror man's home, and that is not a pretty picture. So these things are not victimless crimes from God's point of view. Countless generations and entire civilizations have been degraded as a result, and the truth becomes muddled, revised, twisted, and blended with lies, and everyone loses, just as the engagement between Hasatan and Chawah transpired in the garden, just as is the current Bible of the New Testament written, just as is the Talmud, just as is the Quran. Nothing but muddled, revised, twisted, and blended tales. It's Babel, to confound and intermix. The concluding statement of that prophecy that we shared in our last program ends with Galal Toiba. Mankind's political and religious ways are being equated to, yes, I'm going to say it, bullshit. It is repulsive religious excrement and abhorrent dung. What was the idol that the children of Israel made early on in the Exodus just to irritate God? It was not a bull, a golden bull. Indeed. And so God is saying that your religion is bullshit. You don't like that? You're not going to like God very much. He didn't like you either, so works out just fine. So God is committed to driving the religious away, disposing of them, destroying all traces of them. That said, the way the United States is taunting Russia and China, going to war economically and politically against both, and militarily equipping a proxy to kill Russians, with 2 million Ukrainians dying in the process, well, maybe there won't be a whole lot of people left by the time that Yahweh has to sweep away the trash upon his return. Man is likely to kill most men even before this transpires. Now, if we want to be included in Yahweh's eternal family, we must allow him to perfect us. And for that to occur, we must observe Pesach and Matzah, leading to Bikurim and Shabuah, as the greater luminary and the lesser luminary have fulfilled them and spoken of them. I will share this passage with you, and we will then conclude to this program and pick it up from this point tomorrow. And remember that tomorrow we are going to make a very important announcement that has very significant implications for Israel, for the covenant family, for our mission. You can actually become completely and continually perfected by being consistently right with Yahweh, your God. 18:3 of Devarim, Deuteronomy. It does not say that you have to be consistently and completely, continually perfect. Tamim Haya means that you can be perfected by God. It means that you can be completely and continually right with God. So this is really an insightful thing. It means that there is a way to approach God that is perfecting, and that leaves those of us who avail ourselves of this opportunity that God has provided in a situation where we are perfected. And if you're perfected with God, then you don't even have to have God save you. You don't have to worry about your salvation if God has provided and you have capitalized on the means to perfection. This is the brilliance of what God achieved on Matzah. It's something that I did not understand until a matter of a few years ago. But Matzah is really an ingenious plan for Yahweh. And it speaks right to this. You see, what God provided on Matzah was for Dode after he fulfilled Pesach as the Passover lamb in year 4000 Yah, 33 CE. And his corporeal body was sacrificed. His corporeal body didn't mean squat to him. His soul is all that he cared about. He was more than happy to sacrifice this corporeal body because, as I said, he had already gone 1,000 years without one, and he is now enjoying another 2,000 years without one. He will don another as he returns, but it's going to be an extraordinary one. Bodies are limiting. You can't get into the seventh dimension with a body. You can't really get off this planet and go much past the moon with a body. Bodies are terribly limiting. You can't even approach the speed of light with a body, and at the speed of light, you still can't get anywhere in this universe in any reasonable amount of time. You just are so limited in a physical body that you want to get rid of yours And so Dod was more than happy to sacrifice his corporeal body, his bashar, to fulfill Pesach as the lamb, having that body destroyed that evening. No, it was not resurrected, did not come back to life. That defeats the entire purpose. The Torah says that the remains of the Passover lamb are destroyed. They're incinerated in the fire that night. That's exactly what happened to Dod's body. So that is not perfection, though. What that does is it opens the door to life. Perfection occurs the next day. As you become immortal, you must realize that the celebration is of Chakmah, not just of Pesach. In fact, Pesach is the first day of Chakmah, because eternal life without perfection is exceedingly counterproductive. That is describing a trip to Sheol, hell. And so it is Chakmah, of which Pesach is just the first day. And if you're going to celebrate Pesach, you damn well better understand and capitalize on the opportunity of matzah, or you've done yourself and your soul a tremendous disservice. On matzah, which is unyeasted bread, this fungus of religious and political corruption is removed from us. Dod takes our guilt with his nefesh soul and carries it into Sheol on matzah to deposit it there, never to be seen again. That perfects us. With all of our guilt gone, we look perfect to God. In fact, we are perfect to God. There is no reason to save us. We don't need saving at that point, because God views us as perfect, because all of our guilt is gone. It is a beautiful solution. And of course, then on the next day, which is Bokurim, firstborn children, the Choter of God, his firstborn, returns to the Father to celebrate that family reunion. And he led the way for us to follow as eternal and perfected children of the covenant. That is how we can become completely and continually perfected, by being consistently right with Yahowah, our God. I thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Chakmah Choter on the Yahowah blog. Good day.